Hello, I'm Andy.
And I'm Jamel.
Welcome to the additional content for CAMRA's Modern Homebrewer book.
You'll have seen that each chapter has a QR code which takes you to a landing page on the Malt Miller's website.
On that page, you'll find links to relevant videos, references, and web content to help enhance your experience of the book.
The Malt Miller team have produced these educational and instructional videos to either underline key points or to add to the learnings of each chapter.
As always, we encourage you to like and subscribe to the Malt Miller's YouTube channel, where you'll be able to interact with the team via the comments box.
We hope you're enjoying the book and this additional content.
A forced fermentation test can give you valuable insights into your wort's capabilities and your brewing practices. Not only can it tell you the absolute limit of fermentability you've built into your wort, it can also highlight areas within your brew house or indeed your fermentation practices that could use attention. A forced fermentation test is a valuable practice to understand, especially when developing new recipes. All you need to perform a forced fermentation test is a collection vessel of some sort. That could be a jar, or in this case a conical flask, a set of scales, and the yeast that you're going to be pitching into your main batch of beer. As with all fermentations, it's important to start with clean and sanitized equipment. Once you've completed your brew day and you've chilled your wort down, before transferring all your wort into your fermenter, draw off a sample of approximately 500 millilitres into a sanitized collection vessel. This sample is going to be what we're going to use to force through its fermentation. You can then continue transferring the rest of the wort into your standard fermenter. It's important to take gravity readings at this point and make a note of them. Now, as the name would suggest, we're going to force this sample of wort through its fermentation in a faster manner than our main batch will ferment. The first way we do this is by pitching approximately twice the usual amount of yeast into the sample. It's important that you use the same yeast, ideally from the same packet, that you're going to be pitching into your main batch of beer. Now keep the sample somewhere warm, ideally between 25 to 30 degrees C. This will also further speed up the fermentation of the sample. After approximately 48 to 72 hours, fermentation should be completed on your sample. You'll be able to tell this because CO2 will have stopped appearing and krausen will have subsided, and also your yeast will have started to settle out to the bottom of your collection vessel. Once we're confident that fermentation has been completed on our sample, we can then take a gravity reading using a standard hydrometer or a digital hydrometer to see the exact attenuation we can expect from our main batch of wort. Once we've made a note of where our forced fermentation test has finished, we can then continue our fermentation of our main batch with the expectation that it should finish at the same level. If for some reason the fermentation doesn't attenuate to the same level as our forced fermentation, that can provide us with key insights as to our fermentation practices and also some of our brewing practices. For example, if you don't achieve the same attenuation level in your main batch of beer as you did in your forced fermentation, you may not have pitched enough yeast into your main batch. It could also mean that there's an issue with temperature control of your main fermentation, which could further stress the yeast. Equally, you may not have included enough yeast nutrient into your main batch, or it may mean there wasn't enough oxygenation into the main batch of wort. All things you can address further down the line when you rebrew the same recipe. If for some reason your main batch of beer attenuates lower than your forced fermentation, this could point towards some kind of bacterial or wild yeast contamination.